Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of Wellbeing with Seamus. Can I take this opportunity just to thank everybody who has subscribed to my channel, who has listened to my podcast episodes, and who has followed me both on YouTube and subscribed to my Spotify channel as well. If you've not already done it, I will provide links at the end of this episode for you to be able to link up both to Spotify and YouTube, because you do not want to miss out on my guest this morning. My guest this morning is nothing short of a one-woman crusader. She is one of the most nicest, down-to-earth individuals I ever had the experience of meeting. She is a mum, a wife, a CEO, a social entrepreneur, a founder, an author, and she is a shamanic teacher. And she also holds a board position on a major organization to do with social entrepreneurial funding here in Scotland. I'd like to welcome Starkeeper Morton to this episode this morning. Starkeeper, you're very welcome to Wellbeing with Seamus. How are you?
I hope I can live up to that very grand introduction of me. You've set the expectations quite high there,
Oh, have
Seamus.
I? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Um, but listen, it's so nice to see you, and I know you and I have been friends for a long time, and I think if my memory serves me correctly, we first made contact through LinkedIn, right? It was
Yes.
LinkedIn. I became aware of you maybe 2 to 3 years ago, and firstly I loved your name, Starkeeper Morton. I thought, wow, I actually have a star keeper, a keeper of stars in my connection list, which is absolutely wonderful. And I was intrigued by that. And through our connections and our mutual connection in Plain Laurie, we connected, and over the last year or so, we've really built a good working relationship together. And it's been a real pleasure for me to assist you guys in terms of the development of your own amazing wellbeing programs there at the Haven in Stonehaven. So yeah, and I feel as if I know you for forever, Starkeeper. Right? I just feel as if we've known each other in this lifetime and in many lifetimes previously. And for those who, you know, follow that path, they'll understand what I'm talking about. But for those who for those who do not know you, and I don't think there's many people who don't know you, Starkeeper, because I get the sense that you're quite a vivacious, outgoing character. But I may be completely wrong. I may be completely, totally wrong on that. But tell me, who are you, Starkeeper?
Firstly, I just want to acknowledge that you're the only friend I've ever made off the internet in real life. You've
Wow,
you've crossed that threshold in that realm. And I
wow,
just think you are the best LinkedIn champion ever. I think
thank
I was
you.
pulled and called to get on LinkedIn just to connect and so we could
Oh,
find each other. And you're the number one cheerleader. Pretty much all my tags and like are yours, which I love
likewise, likewise, yeah.
because that way I get to connect with you every day. So I just want to say thank you for making that connection. It's really special, actually.
You're welcome, and it's special for me, and I just love having you in my circle and having the power of you around me. Even albeit we are some distance apart here in Manchester and up in Stonehaven in Aberdeenshire.
I
But
just remember saying to Thane, I was like, there's an Irishman from Manchester coming to our meditation group. I think that's the longest distance anyone's ever traveled
yeah,
to
I
come to
still
your
hold the record. I
meditation.
still hold the record, right? I still hold the record. You let me know if it changes, though, right? Because I
I
need to
will.
up my
I will.
game. Um, So tell me, Starkeeper, who are you for those that who don't know you?
Yeah. It's always a really tricky question to
Hmm.
answer. It's like, in what level do you answer that?
Hmm.
Um, and I guess because I'm always really inspired by ancient cultures
Yeah.
and bringing that wisdom back, or reawakening it rather, in modern society. So I guess I would start perhaps how you would introduce yourself in sort of traditional cultures, which would be, I am the granddaughter of Dorothy and Cecil McIver from Pugwash, Nova Scotia, and Victoria and Walter Kopp from Manitoba, Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada, the daughter of Mary Lou and John Kopp, who were on the Gulf Shore. I am the mother of three beautiful girls. I had three girls in 3 years, which really set me on my path.
Wow.
And my greatest blessing in life is to be the wife of Scott. So I guess that would be my way of giving you my lineage and my ancestry. And I guess in modern times, we more define ourselves on what we do rather than who we are. And I always find that very hard in introductions because it just feels like coming from a place of ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess who I am more is a seeker, a teacher. I remember someone telling me to read the book The Four Desires by Rod Stryker, and you come up through that process with your sankalpa, which is sort of your reason for being or purpose and calling in life. And mine came out as being seek and connect, touch and create. And that's very much a personal mantra for me of reminding me of who I am. So I guess in a nutshell, that is how I would introduce myself when I'm given the grace and space to do it the way that I would authentically want to.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, and I honor that, and I hear that, and I see you both in terms of your current position, but your wider role in terms of bringing ancient cultures to life, and reconnecting people with who they really are as people, because sometimes we forget who we really are, and you're absolutely right. We tie ourselves up in knots and titles, and roles and jobs. But we're much more than that, right? We're much more than our career. We're much more than our role. We're much more than our job. We are human beings all on a journey together. And of what I know about you, Starkeeper, you've taken some journey. You've been on a spiritual journey. How did you end up in Stonehaven in Aberdeen?
It's definitely called here by
Yeah.
a higher being. Yeah, I feel like I've lived many lifetimes in one lifetime.
Yeah.
But I feel if you're growing and evolving, that's a natural outcome. It's something that you and I definitely have in common, which is perhaps why we've reconnected in this lifetime, which is I know you used to be a priest
That's correct.
and followed that path for a while. And I really wanted to be a nun.
Wow.
When I was growing up in Australia, we had the serendipity of moving next door to a convent. And because we were there, just my mom, my dad, my brother, and I at that time, we were very isolated, with no family, no support. So the nuns were the ones that would babysit me, be my companions. And my family wasn't particularly religious. We didn't go to church. There was no pressure. And I just want to really acknowledge that because that's not everybody's experience. It's more of an expectation rather than a choice, which I know you have shared about previously when you're sitting on the other side of the podcast.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to go to the Catholic school, which was private. So my mom and dad got remarried in the Catholic Church. So I could go through all those rituals and life passages, which I believe church in our culture give us. So, I mean, my parents had already, I'd been baptized, but I went through my communion and confirmation. And that was really powerful for me.
Mm.
And in the context and the culture I was in, the Catholic Church gave me the ability to explore my spiritual self and being. And I'm really grateful for that. And I still consider myself Christian, which surprises people because of my name and also having a more shamanic path.
Yeah.
But that's where it definitely began. And then obviously as I went through the education system, you even though I went to an all-girl Catholic school, it was very progressive when we learned about Buddhism and Islam. And
Yeah.
I started questioning, why aren't there any women priests? Why, is all love not accepted? And that's perhaps where I started to part ways on that path.
Mm.
Um, so I guess that tells you a little bit of the beginning of my spiritual path and calling. I very much was rooted and based there. And later on, when I did my shamanic training in Inverness in Scotland, I did a pilgrimage to the Isle of Iona. And at the time, I wasn't quite sure why I was there. But that's what I think pilgrimages are about. You have to take that leap of faith.
Yeah.
And I try and do a pilgrimage at least once a year since then. And I realized the Catholic school I went to was called Iona, and it was the Iona Presentation Sisters.
Wow.
And a bit slow to connect the dots there, but it was very much how do I integrate my Christian Catholic background in a way that sits and integrates comfortably with my new life experiences and learning.
Mm.
And it was through the shamanic work very much that the work, the haven, the vision came clear. And I guess that would be a very short summary.
Yeah. Yeah. You were interviewed for a newspaper in 2022, and you you describe your work as a shamanic teacher, predominantly as supporting people to see in the dark.
Mhm.
Um, can you can you can you explain a little bit about how that happens?
Yeah. First of all, I want to just acknowledge your research. Thank you for trolling through and finding that. So
Hmm.
the word shaman is a Mongolian word.
Oh, really? I didn't
And
even know that.
mhm.
Oh,
And that's what it translates to, one who can see in the dark. And of course, with the more discussion around cultural appropriation, it's like, and that's why I would never call myself a shaman because I'm not trained in a traditional culture, and I want to honor that. So I would call myself a shamanic practitioner and a cross-cultural teacher.
okay.
Yes, just to give you a bit of background around the word, but yeah, so that's where it comes from. And I guess that's what you and I were talking about just a little bit earlier. Like most people don't really know who they are,
Yeah.
or they might know who they are, but it's hard coming out of the shamanic closet. You have to be pretty brave person or a spiritual closet or any closet for that matter.
Yeah.
Um, and and that's not a reflection on a person. That's a reflection on the society that we're in
Mm,
and the social conditioning around us.
yeah.
And so, from my perspective, one who can see in the dark is know you're in the closet. But you have to be aware you're in a closet. First, you have
Yeah.
to be aware that it is dark. And then there's a series of kind of steps, including initiations, like we were talking about, traditionally that would be in a church format. Church memberships are just not resonating anymore. So what is filling in that gap? On a really literal level, I did spend 3 days and 3 nights in darkness as part of my shamanic training, and it's beautiful work because I used to be terrified of being blind, and now I'm no longer frightened of that. And also, just to digress a little bit, I'm also a yoga teacher, and one of the limbs of yoga is pratyahara, so the wisdom and the five senses. So when you take away one of the senses, then everything else is experienced in a more heightened level.
Mm.
And I still support those retreats. It's a Toltec teaching called Embracing Darkness. And this is the beauty of it, coming full circle, Seamus, is I'm actually helping it out in one in Wales in October this year. And it's at a convent with the nuns.
Wow. Wow. Talk about the full cycle of journey.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's incredible. Um, you and I share a connection in many ways, but we also share another connection that you may not be aware of. And I was interested to see that part of your shamanic work uses a drum in terms of its practice to lift the spirit or move the spirit or intuitively guide the spirit along certain practices. And I too am a drummer. You may not be aware of that, but I too play a traditional Irish instrument called a
The
bowron.
bodhran, the
Yeah,
ballroom.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and in the same way that presumably your drum moves you and moves people who hear it, certainly my Irish ancestral instrument moves me every time I play it. Every time I pick it up and play it, it takes me to a place where time and space is suspended, and you enter another realm, right? You enter another realm, and for those who live in the spirit and live through intuitive guidance, you understand where I'm coming from on that.
Mm.
Is is the drum the central facet of your work? Is it quite a powerful tool?
Yes. Cross-culturally, drums were found in every culture,
Yeah.
in every continent, except Australia. Australia, the Australian
Oh,
Aboriginals had the didgeridoo.
yeah.
And how I explain drumming is if you're listening to the radio and it's really fuzzy and you
Hmm.
can't quite hear it right, that's how most of us sort of move around all the time, whether you want to call it hearing God or spirit or intuition, whatever word works for you for your personal understanding. And when you beat a drum uh, for like 6 to 10 beats per second, it it actually changes the brain waves
Yeah.
and you move into a delta state, which then clears the channel, and it's very easy, it's easier to hear whatever it is that you need to hear. When I teach children's yoga and meditation, it's like children aren't really wired biologically to be able to sit still and meditate at that age. And, there's a struggle. It's like, why? But if I beat that drum, they're there because the brain waves are there. When I teach pregnancy yoga, and I think this is why the drum is such a powerful response in our memory and ancestral DNA, is because that's the first thing we hear is our mother's heart beating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our heart is our drum that beats constantly through our life. And then if you are pregnant, then you have two hearts beating inside of you, or sometimes three, or sometimes four, depending on I think there's a really powerful connection, and then all the hearts that had to beat for you to have your own heart beating. And I find that quite moving and inspiring. And of course, there's lots of other instruments that do the same thing. But we have 3 hours of African drumming here on a Monday night at the Haven, and it's amazing because people can hear it. And I like to imagine the beats of the drum are like individual blessings going out into the communities like prayer. And we'll have people just getting called by the drum, just coming up the stairs, knocking on the door, wanting to listen and then join in. And especially in African cultures, because of my experience with West African drumming, there's a lot of amazing, beautiful, inspiring stories and spiritual practices behind it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when I play, I connect both in this present state I am, but also connect with my ancestors and
Yeah.
connect with, the heartbeat of my life throughout its existence on every plane. And I certainly find that, and I resonate with you, and I really honor that about that. I once had a I once had an experience of playing alongside a Japanese taiko drummer. So I played the bowline and he played the taiko drum, but we connected. Two different cultures, two different time zones, two different planes of existence, but we connected in that space and time in the moment, and the effect was absolutely magical. Absolutely magical. So I absolutely get it.
But
Um,
when you come to the Haven next, please do bring your drum.
I will promise, and I like to play it in the big room, so it gives the
Yes.
full kind of panorama of experience. I definitely will. I definitely will bring it. I promise. Um, the last time I was there, in the Haven, you gave me the real humble honor of holding in my hands the golden arrow.
Mm.
For those who may not be aware of the golden arrow, explain to our listenership this morning what the golden arrow symbiology is all about.
Mm-hmm. I think you're the only person I've ever done that with.
Yeah, and I still feel, honestly, Starkeeper, I still feel its power. Still feel its power today. It was quite moving for me, actually, to be honest.
Mm. Well, there's two stories of the golden arrow,
Mm.
and I guess people can choose which one they want to hear, although they'll have to listen to both. Um, and the first one would be what I would describe as a muggle explanation. So it's
Mm.
something you can easily see, so therefore believe, and is not challenging. So, for those not aware, the golden arrow is the symbol of the haven. I guess some people would use the word logo, but that doesn't resonate with me.
No.
And we are in the heart of Stonehaven in Market Square, and it's a very historical building, and it has a clock tower at the top. And on the top of the clock tower is a golden arrow to show the direction of the wind. And that is one version of the story.
I like the other version, though. I like the other version better.
Mm-hmm. And the version that I shared with you is I was on a vision quest and I was 24 hours without food or water. And the seed of the haven, it was still in dream mode. And I had a vision, I had many visions, but one vision that was of a white tiger bringing me a golden arrow that had been broken. Um, and that's the moment I knew that we had been given the funding to start the Haven. I didn't
Oh.
know that in a conceptual way, but at that moment when I
Mm.
saw in my dreaming mind, I knew we were successful. And when I ended the vision quest, I found out. And to mark that moment, I made on the vision quest my version of the golden arrow. Alas, I did not have gold, but I did have some wood. and a bit of wool that I pulled off something else. And I created it and I wrote the haven on it. And so it was a very humble, not particularly beautiful, crafty creation, as you probably could tell when it was in your hand. But
I thought if I was, I personally thought seeing through the wood and the structure, I could see the gold, I could see the power, I could see the energy, I could see the formulation of the structure. Right, you need to go beyond the structure to see the true power
yes,
of the piece. Right, you absolutely do.
yeah,
It's like any art. Two people can look at an art picture on a wall and go, either that's lovely or they can hate it. But those who
yes,
really experience can see the power behind the artistic
absolutely.
work. And I would say that that little symbol is a piece of power. It's a piece of power.
I think power is the right word. I would really stretch to call it art. In if we had to give it a shamanic concept, it would be a power object because
Yeah.
it's held and it's imbued with that moment. And it's above the fire escape light on the door to the studio space. So everyone who enters the haven walks underneath this arrow. And I would say in the 7 years we've had the haven, maybe two people have noticed it.
Wow.
Yeah. And you're the only one that I have specifically shown it or pointed it out to.
I'm
And
honored.
and then
I'm,
had you
I'm
hold
honored.
it. And I'm wondering if my past self did it specifically. So you would ask me that question now. Who knows?
Who knows? Intuitive guidance is one of these things where you intuitively you've just got to trust your gut and do what you need to do. And if you're in attunement, then you just got to do what you got to do, right? And
Yeah.
that's the practice. They may
I
not,
think,
you know,
sorry,
there
go on.
may there may be no reason for it at the time, but the reason may reveal itself a little bit down the road.
Absolutely. And I would say that all of us have that intuitive guidance, but um, it's learning to trust it
Yeah,
and act on it, or are often the two steps that are missed.
yeah, absolutely. Um, Talk to me about that beautiful, powerful location in the heart of Stonehaven, the Haven. Tell people about what the Haven does, Starkeeper. What, what, you know, for those who are listening this morning, I would say to you, words fail me to describe the power of the Haven in Stonehaven. I don't have adequate words to describe it, and I hope Starkeeper can help me out here. But in order to experience something, you need to go and see it in the flesh. You need to walk through the door and you need to experience the power of the haven. Starkeeper, if you can you tell people about what the haven is about?
I guess the Haven really just embodies its name, which is a safe space, a sanctuary, a refuge. And in our societies, we don't really have many safe spaces.
Mm.
And I guess from a pure what we do point of view, which I always find is a lot less interesting than who we are, is we're well-being space. And we have the healing room, which I'm in now, a mindful room, and a studio space. We also have a beachfront teaching garden, and we run community fridges, and we work with schools and community groups outreach as well. And I guess we have everything against us in a lot of ways. Northeast Scotland is under the dark shadow of the oil industry. It's one of the few conservative strongholds left in Scotland. It's very traditional, it's very patriarchal. Our landlords are the Unionist Club, the Conservative Party. And people are surprised sometimes to hear, even though we have very different values, I do believe we have a shared vision, and we would not exist without their support and help. So I just want to acknowledge that, but that doesn't mean that it's not challenging. And then as well, we're above market bar, which, ask anyone in Stonehaven about market bar, but I've taught pregnancy yoga classes with the bagpipes blaring outside. And I just say that's the ancestors calling the babies. And whatever the natives are doing outside, there's this lovely symbiotic relationship, which I find really interesting. So, despite all of that and the car alarms going off in the car park and the crosswalk beeping, it's a safe space. It's easy to be a safe space in the middle of nature when there's no one around and no distractions and no noise. But how do we cultivate that sense of peace and calm with the chaos around us? And I think that's where the Haven really embodies itself. And so often we just have people cross the threshold of the doorway and they burst into tears and they're embarrassed and they don't know why. They're taken off guard and they're surprised. But it's happened so many times now, Seamus, that I just sort of like now just hand them a tissue. I'm like, here you go. Don't worry. It's
Tissues
fine.
are provided. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it's because it's very energetically held and everything's considered, the lighting, the comfort, the amenities, going back to ancient cultures, everything's sort of, smudged and looked after. And we're not used to being in a modern busy culture and being in spaces that are held like that.
yeah.
And the body responds, even if the mind and the heart can't quite catch on to what's happening yet and make sense of it. And yeah, I'm sitting looking at this piece of art that we did at our opening ceremony in the winter solstice of 2017. And I had everyone there write on the arrow what they wanted, what their dream of the Haven was to be. And oh, I just thought we're 7 years old and this is episode 7. Hey,
Wow. Hey.
because I was like, why am I talking about this? And then the number 7 popped up. So why?
Wow.
And I'm reading like all the things people wrote, and I was like, we we made that dream come true. And dream, the reality of it is bigger than the dream.
Yeah, yeah. It absolutely is. If you could put it in context, how many people do you think the Haven has helped since its inception in 2017?
Goodness me. Well,
I was trying to work it out the other night, and it must run into thousands of people.
well, if we go by stats, I can verify. We are first year just finished today. Oh my gosh, this is a milestone moment for that.
Wow, wow.
1st of August, 2023, we started the first year of our 3-year community wellbeing project. Yeah, wow, it's a year today. So I've been collating a lot of that. And we're funded by the National Lottery, the community fund, and our sort of outcomes we had to reach was to engage 2,000 people over 3 years in free wellbeing activities. And I believe we're at 1,300 in the first year.
Oh,
And that's just that project.
wow.
And then when we ran the community food larder during the pandemic, there was 1,500 people we supported there. So let's say 3,000 if you add the two together. And then I know we've given out 3,000 teddies as part of our teddy project.
So that's
So that's
6,000.
6,000. So I would feel fairly comfortable in saying in the 7 years, we vastly underestimate everything because we always want to make sure we under promise and over deliver, at least in the tens of thousands. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, and that that requires a celebration, and that requires congratulations to you on this, your first year anniversary, year one of your community wellbeing project, but also 7 years in terms of its the Haven's inception back in 2017.
Yeah,
This is episode 7,
I
which is
know.
absolutely incredible. And seven, I think it's the Japanese culture is the perfect number, right?
I don't know. I was going to ask you. I was going to say, do you know what the spiritual significance of seven is?
Yeah,
But it seems like every number is a spiritual number, and rightly so. But I can't specifically remember or recall what seven means.
I can, but I'll email you after this episode finishes,
Okay.
and I'll send you on the detail. But I'm nearly sure that in Japanese culture, if you've got a 7 on your number plate or in your home, it's it's um, it's very it's very prestigious. It's very intuitive. It's very powerful. And I know number plates in Japan with the number 7 in them have gone for extraordinary uh, levels of money, in terms of auctions and stuff, because it brings it brings positive energy, it brings power, it brings it brings that wealth and success to people if you've got a 7 a 7 in your number. And it's quite interesting we say that, because success follows you wherever you go. And you shared with me something this morning in terms of being shortlisted as a finalist for a major award. Would you like to tell your listenership what that award is, Starkeeper?
Yes, I can share it because I know this is going to air.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
After the event.
yes, because there's an embargo on it. But yes, I found out yesterday that the Haven is shortlisted finalist for the Social Enterprise Awards in Scotland for health and social care. So that feels
Fantastic.
really momentous.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I congratulate you, and I celebrate with you, and I express joy with you, and I'm with you every step of the way, because, you know, uh, unbeknownst to myself, I have become, an ambassador for the Haven here in Manchester. I love the work that you do. I support the work that you do. I'm your number one fan when it comes to the work that you do, because as a well-being consultant, it just speaks to every level of my mission and vision to create spaces for people, safe spaces for people where they can be without the clamor or the chaos of society, where they can feel peace,
Mhm.
support, care, help, and healing,
Yeah.
and also be fed, which is which is
Mhm.
which is incredible.
Yeah,
Which is
exactly. It's very
incredible.
hard to talk to people about well-being when they're hungry or have poor nutrition and not access to fresh produce, which is why we've continue on with the community fridges.
Yeah.
But I think everyone needs a Seamus in their life.
Oh, thank you. Everybody needs a star keeper in their
I
life, I reckon.
don't
There
know.
needs to be,
I think
there
I'm a
need,
bit much, a bit extra.
no, no, every there needs to be a star keeper in every community, because you shine a light, star keeper, on what's really important. You shine a
Mhm,
light on humanity. You shine a light on, taking all the stuff away, taking all the ego away, taking all the bluff away, and the advertising away, and the marketing away. You really get down to brass tacks, right? You are really at the heart, literally at the heart of your community, providing support for tens and thousands of people, which is absolutely, absolutely incredible. And I'd like to just 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 acknowledge that this week in particular has been a difficult week for the community in Southport,
mhm,
and I want to firstly express my sympathy, and my condolences to the families in Southport who have lost loved ones, to the communities in which these families live, to the family and friends and wider extended community that have been affected by the horrific events of the last week. And I know in terms of the work that you do, you speak quite candidly, Starkeeper, and you've actually written quite candidly in your book, How to Survive When Society Lets You Down, which in itself shares your own personal experience of a personal moment and trauma in your own life in relation to your own family, and how you had to fight to get, a sense of restitution and a sense of justice and a sense of acknowledgement, and felt, to be felt heard and seen. In terms of your view, would you say as a society that level of breakdown is continuing? Has it increased? Has it got worse? And I know we've just had a recent change in political administration. We've gone from a 14-year Conservative-led government to a more socially visioned Labour government, I hope, that has its roots firmly in the communities, the length and breadth of this country. But what's your thought on that? Are we getting worse as a society, or is it getting more difficult to understand society in some way? What's your view on that? And I know you're in the middle of developing a second work around that, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
A lot of big questions, which I have a lot of big feelings about. I guess it depends on what your benchmark is. I've done a lot of reading and reflection and research on this, and I feel in some ways, and this is the bit the media and the news don't focus on, in some ways, although I don't necessarily feel this, we are getting better as a society in the sense that historically, if you go back to humankind, there's like less wars and, vaccinations, there's less deaths and infant mortality, and like lifespan and longevity has increased. So you could make that argument if you were in a debate. But lifespan doesn't necessarily equate to your health or well-being span. Are we living longer? But are we really living in that time? I look at the stats, and you mentioned specifically Southport, and I'm going to get the tissue ready, and I'm not going to apologize for crying, because I think we should be crying about this, where 3 girls go to a yoga class and never get to go home. And if you look at the stats, the past 5 years, there's been a 37% increase in violence against women and girls. And so I think ultimately my goal, and I know your goal is too, is we need to talk about well-being, because happy, safe, well communities don't house and nurture people who do that kind of atrocity. And healthy, well-being communities don't respond to the violence with more violence. In ancient times, there was one person suffering in a community. It was the responsibility of that whole community to bring them into the teepee, bring them into the cave, bring them into the yurt, sit with them. Don't ostracize them. Don't send them to a 10-minute, if you're lucky, GP appointment, and then send them home alone. Such a lonely journey. So as communities disintegrate, humanity disintegrates. And it didn't start with that one attack.
Mm.
You know, it starts with all the narratives of what we value, of what we hold dear. And I wrote about this on LinkedIn. I write a weekly sort of reflection piece on my work at the Haven. And recently, at our community council meeting, two white male community councillors laughed, dismissed, and made fun of the word well-being. It was being considered to rename our local community centre, leisure centre, with the word well-being. And when that attack happened, that's what I thought of. That's where my mind went. And I was like, what's the link there? I mean, it's two ends of the spectrum when it comes to misogyny, but that's where it starts, where male leaders start narratives around what we're prioritizing and what we're dismissing. And that plants a seed of escalation. So I don't have any of the answers. I think we need to ask the right people the right questions. And I think there needs to be accountability around this on a bigger scale. And I have to believe things are going to get better because the alternative's too awful and it's disempowering and it's not going to solve anything either.
Thank you. You know, powerful words expressed from the heart, which sum up the feelings of quite a lot of people, I think. The length and breadth of this country today, Starkeeper, who wake up, you know, on a daily basis to see horrific incidents taking place in literally our own backyard in our own country, and we need to collectively take a little bit of responsibility about the words that we use, about the language that we use, and how we communicate with one another in order, as you say, to build happy, healthy, and safe communities where you don't need to pick up a knife, you don't need to pick up a gun, you don't need to pick up a brick, you don't need to burn a car in order to express your opinion.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, your and my vision is where we no longer need to do our jobs.
Yeah, yeah, we are made redundant, right? Because it's self-sustaining, it's self-nurturing. Yeah, we have all a bit of work to do yet, though, and our work is not yet done. And Starkeeper, finally, we could chat all day, and I know you're a busy person, with a busy schedule. Can I ask how do you fit it all in? What's your secret? What's your secret? I've always wanted to ask you that because, you know, when I look at the roles that you have and the work that you do, how do you manage to fit it all in 24 hours?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have a nice, snappy answer to that because it's and I could say, oh, I don't know how I do it, and I know that's how lots of people answer those things, but I want to offer something helpful. And I guess I'll revert back to the Toltec teachings, which is understanding your energy and your time as power and being very impeccable with that,
Okay.
you know? And so I have a list of questions on my mirror when I'm brushing my teeth every night. And it's like thinking and reflecting on the day when I start the day and I end the day. So it's like, is this the best use of my time, energy, and resources? It's like right now asking myself this question. And the answer is wholeheartedly, whole spiritally, yes. Because I'm with you, and it's aligned with my values, and we're passionate about it, and it's our calling. And yes, but when I stop and if someone asks me about, oh, the weather's nice today, is that really what I want to be talking about? Maybe sometimes. Um, and then if this day is all I had, is this the way I would choose to spend it? So really thinking from a shamanic point of view, you can tell how much someone's truly living their lives by their comfortability with death. Death is the great huntress. If my death was to find me right now, would it respect me? Would I look back and think I made the most of every moment of every day? But that's not to say that you're go, go, go all the time. I don't support or cheerlead the busyness culture. So you have to defend your self-care and prioritize it ferociously. So I look at my year and I'm like, okay, I'm going to retreat here. I'm going to do the pilgrimage here. And I built that into my life quite early on when I had the 3 babies in 3 years. And I went away every 1 week of every year to retreat. And then the more you do, the more you need to fill yourself up. So now minimum 3 weeks. And then I build that into my employment contracts. So I have sabbaticals built in. So it's very intentional living. So I'm co-creating with life. I'm not just letting life pull me away on a tide and all of a sudden wake up and went, oh, what happened? Where'd the years go? That's where the
Yeah.
mindfulness all comes in. Um, so it might look effortless and easy because that's been said to me before, but it's a lot of self-awareness,
Yeah.
a lot of internal work, um, and a lot of accountability.
To yourself.
Yes,
Yes.
holding myself accountable.
Yes. Starkeeper Morton, it's been a pleasure to have you on today. Honestly, uh, you have filled my podcast series with joy, with peace, with positive energy, with helpfulness, with encouragement, and you personify the light of life in my life. Right?
No, well, I thank you for your well-being ministry, which is how I feel about your podcast, which I've listened to all the episodes, and you're really representing North American women, which I just need to honor, being born
Yeah,
in
I,
Canada.
North American women rock. I just want to say that you
Mhm.
you you absolutely are rock in terms of North American women, and I respect um I respect individuals like you who not only talk the talk but walk the walk on a daily basis, and your life is reflected in your practice and it's reflected in your work, and I honor that and I see that today. For
Thank
those
you.
You're welcome. For those who want to get to know Starkeeper Morton a little bit more, you can connect with Starkeeper on LinkedIn. You can connect with her work at thehaven.co. Is it thehaven.co.uk? www.thehaven.co.uk. Starkeeper Morton has also her own Sparks organization and services where she provides yoga and retreats and shamanic practices to individuals who might need them. And again, you can find all this on by searching Starkeeper on LinkedIn. Starkeeper, thank you so much for being on today. You have filled my day with joy and with peace
Mm.
and hope and promise. I await the day when I return to Stonehaven, which hopefully will not be too far away. I'm due to be back there in October, and I can't wait to bring my drum, and maybe we can drum together, right?
I would welcome that. I would welcome that. And I just really appreciate you sort of giving me some time and space to share a bit about shamanic practices in the wellbeing space, because that's not previously something that I've been given the opportunity to share on a podcast. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I would recommend that if you don't know Starkeeper Morton already, reach out, connect with Starkeeper. You won't be disappointed. Starkeeper, thank you ever so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.